It's harvest time across Canada, and this is the time when our farmer members are marketing their crops. Because they grow more than Canadians can consume, the majority of our crops are exported to overseas markets. So farmers earn a good portion of their livelihood from what is becoming an increasingly volatile and unpredictable marketplace. What would your government do to eliminate the rising non-tariff barriers and ensure commercially viable access to export markets for Canadian farmers?
You know, this was the great fear 25 years ago when we moved from the old GATT into the new WTO, and some of the old rules and arrangements that had been in place were replaced by what was called tariffication. And the great concern was how soon will some countries move to some other kind of trade disruptive tactic if they can't use tariffs to do, and we're seeing that exactly now. It's interesting. 25 years ago, the world was celebrating this multilateral achievement of a new WTO, and since then, some of that spirit of multilateralism has deteriorated, and we're back to a number of one-off situations rather than a multilateral approach. I think we've got to try as well as we can through the WTO and through other international mechanisms to try to restore the spirit of a multilateral approach, a rules-based approach for a country like Canada that is very productive, but not the biggest player on the block. We need a rules-based system. And the multilateral framework can help to provide that. But given the deterioration that's taken place in support for the WTO kind of concept, Brexit is an example of that, where a trading arrangement seems to be falling apart. So it's not an isolated example. While we're working at restoring what the multilateral set of rules can do, we also need to be prepared to pursue our legal rights, as we have now started to do in relation to China by leveling a protest there through the WTO. Those legal rights are there for a reason. It takes time. It's not a perfect solution. But if you don't pursue the legal right, then someone at some point will assume that you've given it up, and we can't do that. We also need to be prepared in the right circumstances to retaliate strategically. We did that with cools. We made it the country of origin labeling. We made it very clear to the United States that we had a response list ready and that we were prepared to invoke that list and apply retaliation. And cools was taken away, and that was very helpful for our livestock producers. Similarly with steel and aluminum, we had the largest retaliation ever in Canadian trade history, and it worked its way through the American system, and ultimately the illegal tariffs on steel and aluminum were removed. So you have to make a tactical judgment about what particular tool will work in any given circumstance. But we need to make it clear to those who may be putting Canada at a disadvantage or treating us unfairly that we have retaliation rights, and we will use them where that is in Canada's interest. We also need to implement as quickly as we can the new trading deals that we've successfully negotiated with the EU in the CETA, with Mexico and the United States through the new NAFTA, as I still call it, and the new arrangement with Asia Pacific. Taken together, that gives Canadians access to a market of about 1.5 billion people. We have more market access than any of our counterparts in the G7. So the sooner we are able to get through all the legislative hoops and get all of those trading agreements implemented, the better it will be. That will open new opportunities, but that needs to be followed by an aggressive marketing plan. getting the trade deals in place is one thing. That kind of opens the door. But the open door doesn't do you any good unless you are aggressively going through the door and making the deals, moving the product. We have been better, I think, in the last number of years at negotiating the new trade deals than actually marshaling what used to be that Team Canada effort to get through the door, do the deal, sell the product, move the Canadian goods into world trade. So all of that, I think, is required in order to deal with a very difficult world trade atmosphere in which some countries are moving decidedly in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.